But there are certain factors of genetics, environment, what they did before pregnancy, the amount of effort that they must have put on their pelvic floor, abdominal muscles, and all of that, right? A flat belly doesn't mean that you have healed from pregnancy. And let me also give you examples of, say, a Kareena Kapoor Khan or a Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. They didn't bounce back, but unfortunately, they're not talking about it. At least Kareena Kapoor is very open about it, right? Like, she's not showing her flat tummy, or she's showing she's working out for her health. Actors, actresses, influencers who may not have bounced back, but they don't have the courage to talk about it yet, and I don't blame them. And we changed that. Working out was not for bounce back. Working out was for healing. Physically exercise throughout your life.
Health coach, whom we all know for making Zumba a household name in India, and a fit mama helping other moms break fitness myths around pregnancy and postpartum. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Sucheta Pal, who's going to be talking to us about women's health, confidence, and a lot more. So welcome, Sucheta ma'am, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and well-being story and your current work?
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I think I always separate my health story in two parts. One is when I had a corporate 9 to 9, and I really suffered from a lot of health issues, whether it was stress-induced, whether it was gut-induced. And one of the major concerns I had was irritable bowel syndrome. People don't still talk about it openly, but I think almost 1 out of 5 people in India are suffering from that. And it really took a toll on my well-being and my life. And that's when I decided to quit my corporate life and really pursue my passion of dance and fitness. And that's how the whole change in my career happened. And I have to thank that for the last 10 years of my good health. And I think the second part of my health journey, where I really got very excited about women's health, was my own pregnancy, which was around 2019. At the age of 37, I decided to conceive, and it was a wonderful period. I wanted to break myths around pregnancy and exercise and fitness, so I toured the country, did a 7-city tour of Zumba, and I thought, this is it. Oh my God, I'll bounce back after I pop the baby. Nothing of that sort happened. I definitely bounced back many times, or front, I don't know. I was bouncing all around, absolutely no knowledge of how to heal my body. And I remember 2 months postpartum, I was back on stage, and I say this so openly, I literally peed my pants on stage. I had urinary incontinence. And no one knew it was happening to me, because you just feel a trickle when it happens. And I realized that it's just not happening to me, but when I did a little bit more research, it's happening to so many women, and we are not talking openly about it. We are silently facing these issues, which is hampering our confidence, our mental health, and of course, our body image. And that's when everything changed. And I became a certified health coach for women's health, pre-postnatal coach, menopause coach, and now my passion and my mission is to create awareness around all of this and hopefully help a few women as I do so.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I mean, you're definitely already helping so many women around the world, and, from making India dance to your tunes to now guiding moms all over India. It's just amazing. It's an amazing journey, and we are so grateful to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you.
I mean, some of the things that you talk about today around pregnancy and postpartum, about women's health, is amazing. That's not something everybody is talking openly about, right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we are not taught these things, not in school, probably not even our own doctor. If someone is conceiving, they're not taught these exact things, right? I mean, they would be told the medical terms,
Yes.
and the basic things, like, this is the first trimester, second trimester, this is what will happen. Do you want to do a C-section? Do you want to go for a normal delivery? All these things, but nobody really prepares you for what your body is going to take on. I mean, I know that me and many of my 20-something friends already have so much fear around pregnancy, right? Because we just don't know. I don't even know if we will completely educate ourselves about these things until we actually reach the point of conceiving, right? Which is the harsh truth today. So it's amazing, and it's these kind of episodes are really the need of the hour today, so that we can learn from each other's experiences and also from coaches like you, right? So thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to dive deep into our episode today.
Absolutely.
And to begin with, the first question would be preparing your body for pregnancy. I mean, I have been a fitness coach myself, and when I went for my training, we were talking about women and pregnancy. Our coach was telling us about how today women are already too late when they start training their body, because a lot of them conceive and then start working out for the very first time. They probably don't have a background of working out at all. They haven't been that active, but suddenly this pressure builds up, that now I'm conceiving and I need to work a little bit better on my health and wellness. There's so much restriction around that, because if you haven't moved that much, that frequently before, how much can you go beyond this point, right? So how did you, I mean, of course, you have been in the health and wellness space for the longest time, but what were some things that you did, and what would be something you would suggest women around you are planning a pregnancy and they would love to plan their health around it as well, right? So how do we prepare pregnancy, prepare our body for pregnancy?
I love this question because this is literally my next content piece on my social media, where I'm trying to help women prepare their bodies for pregnancy. I've already done a 3-part series, but I'm going deeper. First of all, just like you, I was super scared about pregnancy. That's why I postponed it till 37. And I understand, because there is so much myth around it. All we listen to is, women screaming in the hospitals. That's been shown in movies, right? But as we talk to few women around, we see so many options that are available, and we'll come to it later when we talk about actually becoming pregnant and what happens then. But preparing your body, it's such a holistic approach to preparing your body. And I did a certain amount of research when I was preparing my body, but a lot of it happened organically because, as you said, I was keeping a very healthy lifestyle. So when I became pregnant at 37, although my age as on earth was 37, my biological age was 32. You can actually measure it, okay? You can go to a good nutritionist clinic and, there is something that you can measure your biological age. What is interesting is, what I was told is the reason your age was 32 and not 37 is because of 3 things that I did. One is I really took care of my body in terms of physical exercise. Second, I took care of my energy levels, whether it was nutrition and sleep. And the third was I really had a great stress level. And I was surprised and I was shocked. If you see today, half of the issues that are cropping up in fertility is because of our stress levels. And I was absolutely very comfortable in my being at that time. I was very happy in my career. I still am. And at the same time, I was very supported in my personal family life, right? Whether it was my in-laws, of course, my husband is awesome, or my real family. So I think I'll break it down into 3 parts. In terms of fitness, I really recommend that women get into fitness in small ways. I think what we've been shown, and trying to redefine health and fitness for women, is that there are so many things at play when you see a woman with 6-pack abs. There is genetics. There's a lot of hard work that goes in. Maybe that person's goal is to become a fitness model. Maybe that person has to have a very strict nutrition protocol to even that 6-pack abs to be visible. You have to have very low fat percentage, which may not be healthy for conceiving. You need to have a certain fat percentage for conceiving. So please, let's redefine health and fitness from appearance to performance. I think that's the first thing that we have to, change in terms of thinking about health and fitness. So now I actually show myself on social media, with my fat belly sometimes, or I'm sometimes bloated, which is okay. It's normal. It's human. But it doesn't mean that I cannot pick up my toddler, who's not a toddler anymore, is almost going to be 4.5, and I can pick him up without a back pain. Hey, that's performance. My body is performing. That's health and fitness. So first is, let's redefine it. And how do you approach fitness now with that goal in mind? First is, do not be afraid of cardio. It has been given a bad name, but do it for your health of your heart, for your lungs, for your overall stamina. It's very important because labor is like a marathon. It's actually been researched in a 2015 study. It has been researched that the amount of energy that is expended, or the amount of, the body is taxed during labor, is equal to a marathon. So if you're preparing for a marathon, it was a Michigan study. If you're preparing for a marathon, why not prepare for conceiving, pregnancy, labor, right? So that means you need your lung, heart capacity, you need your stamina. Second is, you need to get into strength resistance training. And it doesn't mean you have to go and pick up a barbell. It doesn't mean you have to do a TRX. You don't have to go to your gym. It is simple as pick up resistant bands, or just start with body weight training, get a personal trainer, invest for a month, get the posture correct, and then start with an online app maybe, if that is something that you're concerned with in terms of money and investment. But I really recommend that people start doing that. It was a mistake that I made for years, that I did not focus too much on strength training till a TV show didn't come up. I realized that it's so important. You have to maintain muscle mass, because again, in pregnancy and in labor and postpartum, you need a lot of strength in your muscles to recover. So I think you have to think long term. Now, if you can manage 7 to 8K steps, that will be great, because your body is going to really up your energy levels when you're active throughout the day, and if possible, 10K steps. But I really don't focus on that initially, because it's difficult to get 10K steps. That's physical part. The nutrition part of it is, I wish someone had told me this, but again, I'm doing a content on that very soon, is cycle syncing your nutrition. Do you get cravings, Sakshi, like you want sugar, like in week 2,
Yeah,
week 3?
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. And that's what's wrong with me. Like, nothing's wrong with you. It's your hormones which is trying to protect you, actually. So I won't get into the science of it, but there are certain changes in the hormones that keep happening throughout your monthly menstruation cycle. Your body makes you insulin sensitive or insulin resistant, right? So week 2 and week 3 are the ones that you really have to take care. Like suppose your menstruation starts from April 1st. That means week 2 is after menstruation, the first 5 days. So say from April 7 to April 14, you'll feel sugar cravings and your body is insulin sensitive, which is good. That means it can absorb. It doesn't mean you go and, stuff yourself with cake. If you have indulged in a little sugar, it will, in most healthy women, it will assimilate easily. It will digest easily without storing fat, right? It into fat. In week 3, it's your worst week. You will get sugar cravings like crazy because your PMS starts. But it's a time when you have to know that progesterone levels is up, and it is proven again by science that progesterone makes you insulin resistant. So whatever you're eating in terms of extra sugary food, refined sugar, progesterone is stopping it from being taken up by your cells, and it is in that mode of protecting you that, okay, ovulation just happened because day 14, 15 is ovulation. This lady may become pregnant, so let me store all this extra energy as fat so that she can use it for energy. So if you know these things, I so agree with you, Sakshi, when you said, I wish these were taught to us. I don't know why doctors think we won't understand this. I really feel if doctors tell us these things, we are so aware, we are very educated, smart women. See, now you know this, right? So week 3, yes, you will have sugar craving, but instead of having maybe the whole slice, you will maybe have half of the cake because oh my God, that sugar is actually getting stored as fat and I don't want that, right? So this is such an informed choice that you're making. Then someone telling us week 3 don't have sugar. But why? I feel if people are educated, we make more informed choices. So nutrition, I just use this simple trick. And then of course we all know, eat healthy, have whole food, have protein, 1 gram per kg, all of that. Everyone knows that from social media. The last is stress. Many women, we don't realize that stress comes from lack of sleep. Today we are scrolling, me included. We are addicted to scrolling at midnight and then we sleep at 2 or 3. It's the worst thing that we can do because our body thinks we are stressed, and it will really raise our cortisol levels more than needed, and it can affect our body in so many different ways. So sleep, if we can try to sleep by 11 at least, it'll be great. If we can wake up in the morning and take some time to ground ourselves in meditation and our workouts, morning workouts are great. And then the last thing in terms of stress, for whatever stress we have, please do not go to your personal trainer or your nutritionist to solve your stress issues. It has to be a therapist. It's not in our scope of work. So I always recommend therapy. It's not because you have a mental issue. Therapy is because you need a different perspective towards life. When I wanted to become pregnant 2 years before, I had to plan this 2 years before I decided to conceive, because there are so many things in your head. As a woman, we are so established in our career. Will it affect our career? Our body will change. So will I feel the same confidence? Will I be able to get back to my work? Whatever. A therapist, a life coach can really help you solve these issues, because you have to approach pregnancy also with a very, very, very clear, happy mind.
Absolutely. Wow, these are some amazing insights and so relatable. I mean, even women who are probably not at this stage of even thinking of conceiving right now, many of these things are something that we should definitely, be more mindful of, even if you're in your 20s or your 30s, right?
Yes.
Something as simple as having your period regularly, having a menstrual cycle regularly can be done with a good nutrition.
Absolutely.
And regular workouts. And also sometimes we overwork ourselves.
Yes.
Someone who loves working out.
Right.
A lot of women have faced this over here. We probably overwork ourselves, we push ourselves too hard, and we need to know cycling and nutrition and also our workouts
rest,
around
recovery.
Our cycle.
Yes.
Right.
And I also feel, Sakshi, that, whatever tips I said, I am not a pro become a mother. I was never that person. I'm still not that person. Do it for your fertility, because your reproductive system is a major part of your health. So someone in your 20s should listen to this, not that, I don't want to become a mother. Great, no problem. But your fertility is a huge part of your health. So these factors can help you to remain healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, I just read this in a book that, if you're wondering if you have good health right now as a woman, good fertility,
Preserving
and
your fertility, yes.
yeah, and not having any hormonal issues like thyroid and PCOS is a great sign of good health,
Yes.
because that is the body's natural way of being.
Correct.
Right? You want to conceive or not, but to just be in a state where you have preserved your fertility is something to achieve as a goal for your health.
Absolutely.
Right? So amazing. That makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing these amazing insights with us. And you're now talking about what happens when you conceive, and this can be for a woman who is at any stage in her life, who probably has been active or who has never been active. What are some things that we can be more mindful of in these 9 months to prepare ourselves for what is to come?
So I get this question a lot, that because people have seen me working out in my second trimester, touring the country, live shows, teaching hundreds of people on stage, showing my belly, so they think I can go for high intensity movements. So this is what I always tell them, that even when I was on stage, I had a whole team of my other master trainers that, was my team, come and do 2 songs in between my stage time. So I'll go trimester wise. First trimester, if you're someone who's regularly working out, I really want you to change your perspective about fitness and health and think about another muscle group that you have, which is your pelvic floor. We are not taught about. So please, please, please go to a good prenatal certified therapist who will help you understand about your pelvic floor and how to activate it while moving. First trimester, try to reduce, if you're into very heavy weightlifting, maybe reduce intensity by 30-40%. If you're a marathoner, again, the same intensity reduction. You're a Zumba trainer, you are someone who just regularly workouts, whatever it may be, you have to reduce your intensity by 30-40%, because that's the time when that seeding is happening, right? So you have to let that fetus really come into fruition, let it grow. So if you're moving it a lot, you're not letting it really get embedded in your uterus, right? So you have to be like nothing which is very jerky, nothing which is balancing on one leg that should fall over, till your viability scan, which happens at 3 months of your first trimester, right? In the first 3 months. Once you have it, second trimester is a beautiful phase. You are nice and secure. Take the permission from your doctor. Also, I feel your gynecologist has to be with a similar mindset. I was very, very careful about who I chose as my gynecologist. I didn't want anyone to sweet talk me. I wanted someone who worked out. And she was so open, and she said, yes, just, make sure that you're mindful of intensity, never get exhausted. So never be out of breath, and I'll explain to you why, and then never get dehydrated, and just do whatever you were doing. Don't stop suddenly, just continue, because exercise is good for your health. Exercise is not going to give you a natural birth or not. I think that's a myth that we have to break. Exercise is just for your healthy body so that the baby grows in a healthy way. How the baby decides to come out, it depends on the baby. Okay? So there's no relation. There's a lot of myth around it. Second trimester, go for it. Have fun with your workouts. 3 things. Why we should not get exhausted is because your heart is literally beating 40% more. It's working harder, 40% more than your regular when you're just not pregnant, non-pregnant state. So imagine the kind of pressure on your heart and lungs, right? So why do you want to give it more intensity and strain your body? So make sure that you are reducing your intensity by 30-40%, which I did on stage also. People thought I was going crazy, but actually my upper body was moving more than my lower body. So low impact, low intensity. Second is never get dehydrated, and stay in a place where it is well ventilated, because obviously you need oxygen so that your baby gets oxygen. And you never get dehydrated, because then your amniotic fluid, which surrounds and protects your baby, that gets less water, right? So you want it to be hydrated all the time. So you need that amniotic fluid to be never dried up. So you want water intake to be nice. It doesn't need 2-liter Telia, but keep yourself hydrated even when you're working out. And the third thing, as I said, was the intensity bit, right? So intensity reduction by 30-40%, never get exhausted out of oxygen, and always be hydrated. If you're taking care of this, just do whatever you were doing. And the third is third trimester. I literally popped suddenly. I was always like, what's happening? Do I even look pregnant? I look pregnant. I couldn't move. I had to pee at night 3 times. It was very uncomfortable. I stopped working out completely in my 7th month. So 8th and 9th month, it was just flow movement. I just wanted to chill and relax and all of that. Listen to your body. I think the third trimester is listening to your body. And the last month is working on opening up and relaxing your pelvic floor. So if you're someone who's really, is set on a vaginal birth, then your pelvic floor has to be relaxed. There are a lot of movements that you can do to relax your pelvic floor. One of them is a breathing technique. And that I talk a lot about on my social media. It's literally telling your pelvic floor to go to Goa when you breathe in. And, it's just something that is beautiful and that you can practice very easily, is to relax your pelvic floor with certain connection breath work. I think in terms of movement during pregnancy, this is what I would recommend. Nutrition, I'm not an expert, so I would always say please consult a good nutritionist.
Understood. These were some great insights. I mean, I have also spoken to a prenatal coach before, and some of these things were not even spoken in that episode. So these are some amazing insights coming directly from your experience, right? And I'm sure that a lot of women can learn from this episode today. So thank you for sharing these. And after pregnancy today, after delivering, there's so much pressure to bounce back, because we see a lot of women. Even I was surprised to see so many probably influencers or people do post their lives on Instagram very frequently. After delivering, in a week, they would be back to their original body, and even better, in fact. And it's so surprising to see that, and we expect that probably from anyone we see is pregnant or who has been active throughout, right? What has been your experience? Because I'm sure that some people expected you also to look a certain way, because you have been in the health and fitness industry for the longest time. You've been on stage, you've been on screen, you've been that vision of probably a lot of people. So I'm sure a lot of people expected that from you, that she's gonna bounce back. And we expect Sucheta to look a certain way when she teaches.
I expected myself to look that way.
Right. So how did that work out for you? What was that process like?
It took me a lot of change in my perspective towards my body, and the research that all bodies are not created equal. There's a lot of things at play, genetics, but there are a lot of we cannot just blame genetics. Of course, genetics is there. My body will not change the way. I can do the same workouts and you can do the same workout, but your body will look different than mine. Even we follow the same routine of workouts and all of that, right? I am anti-bounce back culture, because on social media, we are only shown that side. But if you see, 90% of women around you who are mothers have not bounced back, right? So that is the reality. But why are we thinking this 10% is reality? The 10%, and I'm not taking away from any of these actors, actresses, influencers, hard work. But there are certain factors of genetics, environment, what they did before pregnancy, the amount of effort that they must have put on their pelvic floor, abdominal muscles, and all of that, right? At the same time, just because you have, for example, a flat belly doesn't mean that you have healed from pregnancy. Okay, so I'll explain the two parts of it. And let me also give you examples of, say, a Kareena Kapoor Khan or a Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. They didn't bounce back, but unfortunately they're not talking about it. At least Kareena Kapoor is very open about it, right? Like, she's not showing her flat tummy, or she's showing she's working out for her health, which I love. I love that about her. But unfortunately, there are a lot of, actors, actresses, influencers who may not have bounced back, but they don't have the courage to talk about it yet, and I don't blame them. But I wish that 90% of women were talking about it, and we would feel so much better, right? And we changed that, working out was not for bounce back, working out was for healing. But let me explain, just because you have physically exercised throughout your life, just because you have six-pack abs, doesn't mean that you will bounce back post-pregnancy in terms of the same body on the exterior. The reason is, and I'll share something very interesting. When most European countries, post-pregnancy, there are 10, not 1, not 2, but 10 re-education sessions on the pelvic floor given to women. India, forget about it, right? We don't even know that there was a pelvic floor therapist, right? True. That we could go to. But now there are a few of very good ones in India. But of course, they charge a lot. It's still not accessible. But when I went on stage thinking that I would bounce back, and I still had weight, I still had that extra post-baby weight. I was never concerned about that. But when I peed on stage, my focus changed from losing weight and showing someone that, oh my God, I'm back to the Sucheta that you knew before. I didn't care. I thought, I cannot pee anymore. Okay, this is not me. So internally, I had to change what I thought about myself, that I was a functional individual, right? I was someone who didn't have to wear diapers if I have to step out. Thankfully, the pandemic hit and I could study. I took an international coaching and certification, and I learned that your abdominal muscles literally stretch 115% during pregnancy and labor. Like, literally they stretch, right? And they separate for the growing baby. 115%. It's crazy. during labor. And just now I had a C-sec, but I was in labor for 24 hours before that. And I really wish I went for C-sec before, because it was anyways in my mind. But societal pressure, go for the vaginal method. So I did it.
True.
And I realized after research that your pelvic floor stretches 250%. 250%, but 2.5. Crazy. And no one is teaching us how to heal it. And all we are focused on at 1 month postpartum or 6 weeks postpartum, where the doctor says read signal, go and do your planks, go and do your burpees, lose weight, 10 days boot camp. And as they're doing their jumping jacks, and as they're doing Zumba, or they're doing XYZ, they're lifting weights, they are feeling that they're peeing, they're sneezing and they're peeing, or they're having umbilical. I know of coaches who are fitness influencers who came out later out in the open and they said they had umbilical hernia after 1 year. They had again achieved six-pack abs, but they had umbilical hernia after 1 year, because no one taught them about pelvic floor and abdominal bracing or engagement the right way. So that's where my perspective changed. I didn't lose my post-baby weight till 2.5 years, and I never cared, because I realized I had to be functionally fit. So I started focus on pelvic floor rehabilitation and my abdominal muscles rehabilitation. And I healed my urinary incontinence, and I created my own program called Mom Bod Strong, because I paid lakhs to do all that, to study and heal myself, and I wanted something in thousands to give to my women in India. So it was a six-week postnatal program that I still offer. It's completely pre-recorded, so women can do it at any time, because mothers don't have time to come for fixed classes, right? True. And then now I am doing awareness sessions across India called the Revitalize Mom, where I am trying to banish the bounce back culture of just losing weight, but literally bounce back for your energy levels, right? So revitalize your energy, because at the end you are living for energy in life. You are living because you want to feel independent without any aches and pains, even at age 90, right? So let's change and redefine health and fitness, especially for women in motherhood, in all stages of motherhood. So when I changed that perspective, I didn't care about what people expected me to become, right? Because I knew what was going on in my body, and I knew that they have to know. I'm like, guys, don't worry about that. Let's focus on healing your body from the inside out. So I'm still a work in progress, but I'm so confident in my body today than I ever was when I even had a six-pack ab once upon a time. And that perspective changed me, that my body is so powerful that I created a universe, and my body is so resilient that it's healing with the right kind of inputs given to it. I think that's very empowering as a woman.
Right, of course. And more power to you. I mean, the way that you convey this message through your videos, through your posts is just amazing, and it definitely needs to reach women out there who are going through the same phase, right? So. And it's true. I mean, the pressure is crazy. I mean, I just read this somewhere that, if you've taken a year to make this baby, why not take a year or more to, get back to feeling like yourself again? Because it is a big process. There's so much internal healing happening. You cannot just expect yourself to snap out of it and just be your older self like that in just 2 or 3 months, because that is what most women postpartum, when they go to health coaches, that's their goal. I have 3 months, I have to lose this.
And I understand. They feel, because they have always attached their health to the outward look, appearance. But I think that perspective change has to come. That is your body functional again? How's your quality of life? Are you having any issues, pains, aches? Sort that out. Weight loss is a side effect. There's nothing wrong in having a goal of weight loss. I'm not anti-weight loss, extra weight loss. If you have extra fat, that's not good for your health. But that shouldn't be the first.
Right, of course. That makes so much sense, and thank you for sharing that with us. And coming to the last segment of the episode today, we don't talk enough about how the mental health of a woman is affected after they deliver. Right, there's so many women face postpartum depression. There's a phase they go through, because it's just not that, but they have so many things in their mind. They have to go back to work, probably take care of the families and have so many things on their schedule to do. Right, and along with that, deal with postpartum depression in some cases, which is so tough because we don't even accept it. Probably some doctors don't even, inform the families that this might happen. So you might need to create an environment where it is safe for the woman to feel like that, right? And that can in turn, lead to a disordered way of eating, because
Oh.
I have and it just doesn't happen with that 1 year. Some women carry that along unknowingly for years, even when their child is like 10 years old, 8 years old,
Yes.
right? So women are more prone. I've also read this in a book, in a recent study, that women are more prone to having a disordered way of eating, because we are so much more conscious about the way we look, the way we have
Feel.
put on weight.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't realize how our bodies fluctuate throughout the weeks, right, throughout the day.
Yeah.
So that's so important to think about, and also to protect ourselves from having this pattern of disordered eating,
Yeah.
right? So what is your experience in it? And I don't know if you face that yourself.
Absolutely,
or
I do.
how do you help women around you, be more mindful? What are some things that we can do to help us make this safe environment for ourselves, and
Yeah.
probably our families can help us around with it. Right.
Unfortunately, people think postpartum is for the first year. It is not. Research has proven, we knew it as women, but it can extend to 2 years, 3 years, even 7 years. The effects of childbirth, pregnancy can remain in your body and your mind for even 7 years or more. Maybe the next research will come out, it's there for 20 years. I still feel it. My son is 4 years plus. I remember I do not feel any mamta, no motherhood wala feeling for my baby for 3 months. It was all my husband. I was like, I will just pop the baby, you take care. And the baby even doesn't respond back. So you don't feel much emotions. You just have to take care. It was only after 3 months that I really felt something. And those 3 months were not great. I do not thankfully go through postpartum depression, but I am prone to. I have very openly spoken about my depression and my journey with it and my anxiety. But I did have anxiety towards life in the first 2 months. I really at one point thought, why did I even decide to become pregnant? And all women have it. They just don't want to say it openly. But anyone that I've spoken to, they have regretted the decision once in their life. With all the love for their baby, but they have regretted it. The reason are 3 things. One is, when you give birth, there is a change in your neural connections. It's a science that it changes in a way that your mind and body is driven towards just taking care of that baby. But see, this worked when maybe for our mothers or maybe for our grandmothers, because they didn't have a full-fledged career. For us, there is still that wiring of, work, our careers, our identity, right? For our mothers, unfortunately, or grandmothers, their identity was very much driven by the family. So it was, I'm not saying it's easier, but it is much more difficult for us, I feel, right? So in one way, our brain is saying focus on the baby. The other side is saying identity loss. No one is asking for my decisions in my work. Although we have only taken that break, saying that we want a break, but our mind is still at work. So obviously it's difficult to balance all that. Second is body identity. We have lost the way we look. We think we're going to bounce back, but we still look pregnant even at 5 months, 5 years postpartum sometimes. So there's a loss of body identity, which was a big part of our identity. It's not something that we have to look down upon. It's okay to feel body identity, right? And the third I feel is that you feel angry towards your partner. That, okay, nothing changed for him, right? It's all, and the partner is very supportive, but you still feel anger and your relationship changes. You're not able to sleep. You're not having that couple interaction. It changes for years. So for me, I think therapy helped a lot, but still I till today have emotional eating disorder where I eat my emotions, or I don't know what to call it, but Netflix binging disorder, or I have scrolling disorder. There will be a name for it soon, I'm sure. But it's true, right? At night, when everything is done, I'm sure when you have it, or I don't know, many young women may have it, mothers have it a lot. But after we put our kids to sleep, it's revenge time. It's revenge self-care. You've heard that term, right? That, okay, I'm going to reclaim my time, and my time is, I want to empty my mind. I want to stuff my face with food. I want to Netflix binge. This is my time. But unfortunately, what we are doing is we are harming ourselves more. Because let's say we have to wake up at the same time and do the same routine. So what really helped me is I fell sick after doing this repeatedly. Nothing else helped, okay? Because as a fitness coach, you realize nothing can touch you. You feel that nothing can touch you. I can abuse my body, but the body doesn't differentiate whether you're a fitness coach or not. The body will try to protect you, and it will come out in different ways. So my body had become very inflamed. Actually, it was just a couple of months back. And I had to go through an absolutely Ayurvedic Panchakarma to detox, to really reset my body. And I realized that I cannot abuse my body anymore. Yes, do I want to watch Netflix? I will still. I'm not going to deny myself, but there has to be a time period for it. I will reward myself, no problem. Do I like ordering from Swiggy? Absolutely. But can I choose more healthier options? Yes. because I like that feeling of Swiggy se kuch order kiya.
True.
And then watch it with my Netflix. So then I have a dedicated 1 hour time for that, either in the afternoon before my son comes or maybe at night after my son sleeps. And then I have to sleep early. Like no matter what, I will sleep before 10:30, 11 with my son, or maybe after an hour of my son sleeping. I think I have realized that habit change happens because you really want something truly beyond your physical appearance, right? For me,
Right.
when I fell sick, I had to sleep. It was a painful reaction on my skin. That is how my body manifested. And I literally had to sleep in another room for 1 month. I have not shared it with anyone yet. This is the first time I'm sharing it openly. It just happened this Feb. And I literally had to sleep in another room, and I miss sleeping with my kid. That's such a simple thing, right? I couldn't sleep with my baby. And I thought to myself, no, this is not how I want to live my life. So if that means I have to sleep at 10 for my health, I will. But the deeper purpose is I want my time with my son. I want to cuddle with my son. So when we change our purpose for health, we change our goals that will achieve that purpose. And then when we change our actions for it, I think it's a much better approach than just let's lose weight and let's bounce back. I feel that's
Absolutely.
something that I'm trying to change in myself and in people. And I share all this very openly to everyone. I share
Right.
my failures very openly because others are not. It's not such a rosy picture out there. Just because we are health coaches doesn't mean that we are perfect.
Absolutely, and it's amazing to have someone be so candid about their experience, because someone or the other listening to this is definitely benefiting big time out of it, right?
I
And
hope so.
I mean, there's a thin line today between self-care and being kind to yourself and your health going down the road.
Yes.
Because, we want to be kinder to ourselves. We want to have that self-care. But we probably, if we overdo it or if we are not very mindful about it, then we end up making the wrong choices because
Yes.
of everything available to us right now. Like you said, the online ordering apps. I mean, tell me about it. Everybody is, crazy about
Yes.
it today because we can get things within minutes.
Absolutely.
The wrong foods and the right foods.
Yeah.
But at the time when we are hungry and we see so many options, most probably we would end up making the wrong choices, right, when we order.
And I love the word that we use, self-care. We can overdo self-care. I was reading this very beautiful article which says, can we do away with self-care? It's making us more guilty. Because, like, especially for moms, when we think of self-care and these on social media, when I see my mom blogger friends going out for a nice, look at my hair. It's all like, oh my God. And my hair is, thankfully, it's still nice thanks to my mom. I do nothing, but I'm seeing, these moms going out and taking care of their hair, my self-care time, and, are they going out for shopping or for a nice brunch with their women? I think it's wonderful. At the back of their mind, their next reel is how they were feeding the mom guilt, right?
True.
And I feel that it doesn't become self-care if you're feeling mom guilt. And somewhere taking out time for self-care is guilting us as mothers. So why not put self-care in very subtle ways? In our daily life, start with that. It doesn't have to be a bubble bath. Like, which bathroom in Indian homes has a bath, right? Like has a tub, right? Where do I do this bubble bath? But where do I have the time to put scented candles, right? Please don't give me that this Mother's Day. But how about I take out that 10 minutes after my meal and just go for a walk and listen to the Settle Up Be Better podcast, right? Right? Like, isn't that a very conducive, very easy, synchronized way of self-care? Like a very easy, efficient way than guilting myself. So I think I definitely want to leave you and whoever is listening with that thought that self-care has to be seamless in the beginning.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Sujita ma'am, for sharing all these insights with us. And these last 40 minutes have been amazing. I mean, there's just so many insights in this one episode and so many learnings from this. And you have been so candid about your experience that I'm sure that everybody is going to be hooked to this episode towards the end, till the end, because you've been so candid about it, right? So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And this brings us to the end of the episode today. As we conclude, do you have any other last messages to leave us with?
Always tell any woman, whether you're planning motherhood or not, we just have to think about moving better to live better. And on side effect is looking better.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful message. Thank you so much once again for being here today. And for the ones who don't follow you already, there'll be links in the description below. They can reach out to you, learn a lot more from you, probably be notified for your next workshops around India, and they can probably be a part of your program and train with you at some point.
Love to have them. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure to be here.